Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain-Free You. Today's topic is going to be, what are you feeding your symptoms? So we'll get to that in a minute. Relax with me, take a couple of nice breaths. For the first time in a long while, had a really nice chill Sunday. So hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome to Monday. So relax your body so that your breath can kind of slow down a little bit, get a little bit deeper. All right, so what are you feeding your symptoms? I've talked about it in the past. I think the two things that fuel or feed symptoms are fear, talked about that yesterday, and attention, right? So people will think, well, I'm going to ignore the symptoms. As I've said before, impossible. Why? Because the symptoms are designed to get our attention. But not only that, if you're afraid of something, how easily are you going to be able to turn your back on it? Right? You're not. If there was a tiger in the room and somebody says, oh, just ignore it, turn your back on it, it'll go away, you're never going to be able to do it because you are very frightened by that tiger being in the room. And he looks hungry. And so fear and attention kind of go together. When you're fearful of something, you'll be giving it a lot of attention. You can't really take the attention away first, right? That's like saying, la, 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 I'm not listening. That's why I say don't try to ignore the symptoms, because that's coming from a place of fear. You're trying to ignore them and get away from them. That's all about the symptoms. That's why I like saying engage in something else other than what's going on inside of your head or inside of your body. So what are you feeding your symptoms? I think we really have to dial down the fear first. But then as far as attention goes, as the fear starts coming down, you'll be able to shift your attention away from it more and more often. And there's a little bit of a back and forth here, because the more you're able to engage in something interesting, compelling, productive, connection with others, funny, humorous, whatever that may be, you're giving less attention to the symptoms. And over time, that also has a tendency to soften the fear a little bit, because as you engage in other things, the brain's going to notice what you're doing, and that you're not as fearful because you're not staring at the symptoms every waking moment of the day anymore. You're starting to engage in life. So the analogy that kind of came up, recently in my head was kind of view attention as how much food are you feeding it, right? So when you're fearing and giving attention to the symptoms all day long, that's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet where you just stay from the moment they open up until the moment they kick you out, and you just continue to eat and eat and eat and eat. And so there's varying degrees between that and fasting, which is where you don't eat anything, right? Ideally, that's where I'd love for everybody to get to, where you're not even thinking about this stuff. And it's cool. I hear people say, Dan, I haven't watched your videos in about 2 weeks. I'm just not thinking about it. Which, in my opinion, is fasting. It's like saying, I am not going to feed these symptoms with any more attention, right? But that's tough to do while you're still very fearful or terrified of the symptoms themselves. So I think fear and attention go hand in hand, but attention, look at it this way. Some people say, Dan, I'm not afraid anymore of my symptoms, but man, they're not going anywhere. So the other angle on this is, how much attention are you giving the symptoms? Because if you say, I'm not afraid, but I'm going to watch them all day long and monitor them and wait for them to go away, the intellect says, I'm not afraid. But the subconscious hasn't bought that yet. Because if you truly were unafraid, you wouldn't be watching them and monitoring and, still being frustrated that they're not gone. I'm not afraid, I'm just frustrated. Why are you frustrated? Because I don't like the symptoms. Well, doesn't that come from a place of fear? Of course it does. And so it's important to try to feed your symptoms with less attention, but you can't just shift 100% away like that if you're still afraid. And so work on both of these at the same time. Start to engage more in things outside of your head. And for the people who are in varying stages of, disability, I know that sometimes these symptoms can be incapacitating. Even if you're laying in bed, you can still shift your attention away from the symptoms. And over time, practice spending more and more time focusing on other things in life as opposed to the symptoms. And I hear it all the time, but Dan, I can't do anything else in life. You can direct where your thoughts and where your attention are going. And even if that seems like it's insignificant and you're not able to go live your life like Dan says all the time, it still matters. It really does. Speak about your symptoms less. Vent about them less. Comment online about them less. Discuss them less with family and friends. That inner conversation, remember I did that video, 3 conversations. The inner conversation is where we spend the vast majority of our day-to-day thought processes. So in that internal dialogue, put less and less attention on the symptoms. Again, hard to do if you are still terrified, which is why it all boils down to understanding what's going on and what's creating the symptoms in the first place. I believe perceived danger is what's causing all the symptoms. So if it's perceived danger, then safety is the solution. Well, how can we feel safe without the accurate knowledge of what's causing it in the first place? Because as long as you're saying, but my doctor said, my imaging study said, your brain's going to still perceive danger and likely keep things going, or at least delay recovery. So clarity, job number 1. You got to figure out and accept that TMS, perceived danger, pain, or symptoms is what's going on with you. And once you accept that, start to believe that you have what it takes to get better. You have what it takes to dial down the fear. You have what it takes to start shifting the attention away. Now, there was some really interesting dialogue today. Some people felt that, the fear message was too simple, that there's more to it. And I agree, our histories matter, right? Our personality types, our propensity for putting other people first and people pleasing and all that kind of stuff. Those things are part of being human. But I still do believe if we want to boil it down to the simplest possible thing, it's important to feel safer emotionally, physically, and mentally. So the two big components there are emotionally and mentally. And so for anybody who's having that discussion with themselves and saying, it can't be that simple, Dan, I have to resolve all this other stuff before I can turn off or dial down the fear and decide not to be fearful anymore. Look, I'm not dismissing our past traumas. I'm not dismissing the emotional component of our lives. When the brain feels safe emotionally, physically, and mentally, the symptoms will settle down. They'll go away. And so, it's not just fear of the physical symptoms. It's fear in general, And so the safer we feel in one area, it's going to bleed over into other areas. I have a lot of people commenting and saying, Dan, once I decided to be unafraid, I became less afraid of anxiety. I became less afraid of what other people thought of me. I became more resilient in life itself in general. And so all of this stuff works in all ways, feeling safer in general will tend to have a brain that is less vigilant, less hyper alert, less likely to be looking out for danger everywhere and finding it. And I just want to touch on one point. There seemed to be a little bit of discussion surrounding the comment which I read, which led me to that, fear video yesterday. And some people took offense to this person's comment surrounding self-pity, right? And what I will suggest to you is, if you don't believe you are engaging in self-pity in your comments, she wasn't talking to you. She may have been saying in the pain community at large, and there's a lot of the pain community that doesn't even know about TMS. Those are what I call some of the bad neighborhoods. So do your best not to take that personally, because a couple of people got their feathers ruffled, and I really wish you wouldn't, because by focusing on that one small part of the message, and I'm not disagreeing that it could have been phrased softer or more gently. I'm not suggesting that it was 100% cool. But by focusing only on that, you're losing track of the main message, which is once this person decided to no longer be afraid of the symptoms, over a few months, all of the symptoms went away. Don't lose sight of the message because you didn't like one piece of the message. So that's all I'm going to say there. I love you all. I'm not judging you for responding or reacting to this, but it wasn't likely about you specifically. It was a generalized statement, and don't take it personally. There's lots of people saying lots of things on the internet, and it is very possible that this person had a very important message that was colored by this one statement about self-pity. So in any event, what are you feeding your symptoms? And for the people who can truly say, I'm not afraid anymore, I'm just pissed off, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, that's still coming from a place of fear. You certainly don't like it. And in that case, you would be feeding the symptoms with frustration, anger, right? And if you are saying, well, I'm doing everything Dan says and I'm not getting better, and I'm really frustrated by that, well, you wouldn't be frustrated if you actually didn't care whether or not you had the symptoms, right? It goes along the lines of indifference. Authentic indifference literally means, so what? Whatever. If I have symptoms today, I'm okay with that, because I know they will go away eventually once I've done a successful job at dialing down and neutralizing the fear. And once you dial down the fear, by default, the attention starts to shift back to doing more and more in life. So I still think fear is the primary thing that we want to dial down. We do that with accurate knowledge, a decision that this is what's going on with me. And yes, it's extremely challenging when the symptoms are severe to not fear them. But I will say, each and every one of you have a 100% track record of making it through every single bad day you've ever had. And you're still here. And you're still knowing and believing and pursuing the fact that recovery is possible for you. Not just for other people. For you, it's very possible. And it's not just possible, it's probable when you really dial down the fear so that you can take the attention away. Right? If you'd like more help with this stuff, I do have the weekly group coaching. I run 4 sessions a week. Each session lasts multiple hours. Monday at 9 a.m., Tuesday at 3 p.m., Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. All of these times are New York City time zone, Eastern time. And lots of opportunities to come and get the support you want. A wonderful Facebook community where people are making great friends. There's a video-based course in the group that you'll have access to, and that really condenses a lot of the things I teach in these free daily videos. If you don't want to join, don't. Watch the dailies, implement the concepts. Lots of people are doing so much better, which is wonderful. And if you'd like to feel like you're not doing this alone and would like the support of others, come join the group. painfreeyou.com/join. And I hope to see you in there. But if not, I really hope that you continue to watch the dailies and implement. Most importantly is implementing, putting these concepts into practice. And don't convince yourself that it's too big, I can't be, the symptoms are too intense, so I can't dial down the fear. Fear a little bit less each day. Feed the symptoms a little bit less of fear and attention. That's progress. If we're measuring progress based on symptoms, we got it backwards. The mindset always shifts first. So, we can't turn off fear overnight. It's just not going to happen. But you can fear less today than you did yesterday and the day before and the day before that. And I think that's why so many people are getting better and improving, is because these daily videos give you accurate information, hope, optimism, calm, clarity, confidence, and that starts to build momentum. And as a result, people are fearing less and less and paying less and less attention, and as a result, symptoms are starting to come down all over the world. So, what are you feeding your symptoms? Fear, attention, both? Do what you can to fear less and give less attention, little by little, baby steps. You'd be surprised how, as you continue to focus on small baby steps, improving slightly in the amount of fear, the amount of attention you give, how far you can come in a few weeks or a few months. I think you'll be incredibly, pleasantly surprised by the progress you can make by actually just focusing on little small increments. This is not a massive switch where you can just go and turn off all the fear and the attention. It just doesn't happen that way. Baby steps. So, love you guys and gals. Feed your symptoms less. Ideally starve them, but you're not going to be able to go from a full-on buffet where you're feeding the symptoms all day long to fasting overnight. Baby steps. You will eventually get to the point where you're not even thinking about your symptoms anymore. And that's when you know you've really got it. But you don't have to get there tomorrow. You won't get there tomorrow. This takes time, practice, small baby step increments, and you can do this. So I believe in you. I love all of you, and whatever I can do to help you out, I read all the comments. So hope to see you in there. Hope to see you in the group, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Love you.